imagine if you go into a school tomorrow and you tell students that they no longer need to learn how to read or write. That's a pretty extreme kind of statement, but that is similar to what is happening right now for students with blind or low vision.
Students can engage with the pen on their own, self-directed, self-paced, without the presence of an educator or a teacher. And that in itself allows us to, use the tool to support, student-teacher interaction or learning outside of the classroom environment.
Welcome back to Wise on Air, the show where we talk to the world's leading minds on the future of education. My name is Bassem Hijazi, producer of the show. In today's episode, we explore how learning doesn't always require sight or sound. In fact, we're joined by two innovators who are transforming education through sensory learning approaches. Ramy Abdulzaher, co-founder and CEO of Bonocle from Qatar, shares how his team uses Braille technology and gamified learning to improve Arabic literacy for visually impaired students. And from Nigeria, Gideon Olanrewaju, Chief Executive Director of Aid for Rural Education Access Initiative, demonstrates how offline digital pens are bringing literacy to refugee camps without internet access. These Wise Prize finalists are creating inclusive learning environments that challenge our assumptions about how education happens. Let's jump to Wise Director Aurelio Amaral to kick off the conversation.
Welcome to Wise on Air. It's a pleasure to have with me today two of our Wise Prize finalists, Ramy representing Bonocle and Gideon representing Fast Track. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for being here. We'll explore today how tools that leverage tactile, auditory, and screen-free methods can transform learning experiences, right? So we'll really immerse in the world of your solutions, the devices that support the solution delivery, and discuss how that impacts learning outcomes ultimately. So I will start with you, Ramy. If you can explain how the Braille technology can foster more accessibility and engagement for students with visual impairment.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the things we always try to make clear is, that audio is not a replacement for literacy. One of the things that we always, focus on, especially in newer conversations when we're trying to raise awareness, is, imagine if you go into a school tomorrow and you tell students that they no longer need to learn how to read or write. That's a pretty extreme kind of statement, but that is similar to what is happening right now for students with blind or low vision, and so that's one of the things that we're trying to solve. And in this case, Braille is the tactile method of them being able to access the skills of reading and writing, which we find, contribute to so many different aspects of their educational success, of their professional opportunities. Some students, for example, try to shy away from specific subjects just because they're let's say, harder to learn or harder to navigate when you're only depending on audio, for example, versus using something like Braille. I always remember an example from school when they used to tell us, don't just listen to stuff in classroom, go back home and read it yourself. I mean, back then we didn't really believe that, but I understand where that's coming from because it does 100% reinforce that experience. And we're advocates of being able to read from early on and kind of maintaining that through your life. And so that's what we provide with Bonocle as a tactile solution to that.
Perfect. And we have Bonocle right here, and you can...
Yeah. So Bonocle is kind of like our tool, but at the same time, it's combined with software that we've built that kind of leverages existing technologies. And so you can imagine something like combining Bonocle for opportunities where you need something that is portable, that is lightweight, that you can move around with. But at the same time, if you're using like a typical Braille device, you can also use our software to kind of gamify that experience. So instead of a student being forced to read or forced to learn, they're kind of learning with intention. They're learning with with entertainment, they're having fun while they're learning, and that definitely contributes to how well they're able to retain the information, but also their willingness to start the practice.
Perfect. And speaking of portable, accessible devices, Gideon, I want to bring you into the conversation and ask you how tactile and audio feedback play a role in improving literacy and numeracy outcomes, specifically with the use of fast track pen.
Tool. Yeah, thank you very much. I think one thing that we've seen from our experience, executing fast track over the last, 3 to 4 years is the power of, tactile and auditory tools in not only reinforcing retention and comprehension, but giving advantages, over just the natural mode of, knowledge facilitation. But basically, with your question, I think there are three major things I'm going to emphasize on the advantage that, this kind of tools that has, touch and feel, confers to, literacy and numeracy outcome. The first one is multisensory learning reinforcement. Learning has to do with different parts of the brain, right? And when you have tools like either Bonocle or Harry High's, talking pen and books, they stimulate different part of, the brain, enhancing both memory and retention as well. And, leveraging on those two things, the multisensory component really ensures that whatever the learners are learning, can be retained and can inform, the, extensive engagement with learning materials. Also, as part of that is the fact that our pen produces, different kind of music. And children at a very tender age are attracted to sounds, and that's why you see so many rhymes or poems, in music format. And that's one of the things that we are keen to and leveraging on to ensure that we can reinforce, the development of ability to read and write. I think that's the first one. The second thing is contextualized oral instruction. What the pen does is to translate, from one language to another, in ensuring that we can leverage, mother tongue in the development of a new or a second language. And I think that is also very key because the use of other tongues being incorporated into the pen allows the learners to be able to engage in multiple languages, which is one of the things that we're saying that multilingualism or bilingualism is really key in supporting the development of foundational skills. I think the very last one of what we see that our pen supports, in achieving is self-paced independent learning. I think over the last few years, the essentiality of personalized learning has been very much emphasized within the educational landscape. The need for us to support learners with tools that allows them to be able to learn not only in the school, independently on their own, but also at home. And that's the fun that the pen also brings about. Students can engage with the pen on their own, self-directed, self-paced without the, the presence of an educator or a teacher. And that in itself allows us to, use the tool to support, student-teacher interaction or learning outside of the classroom environment. I think those three things, multisensory learning reinforcement, contextualized oral instruction, as well as self-paced independent learning. Those three things, stands out on the power or the potential of, our talking pen as some sort of, tactile and auditory support for learning outcomes.
Perfect. And touching on your last points, the self-paced, personalized learning is key in the context where you operate refugee camps where not always students have the opportunity to engage. Exactly. So I'd like to ask you how you guys manage to track the effectiveness of the use of the tool in this resource-constrained environment, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So there are a couple of factors that we've seen over time that informs or allow us to enhance the effectiveness of our tool. And the very first one that I'll mention is inclusive and participatory design of our intervention. We've seen over time that the power or the efficacy of our intervention is very much connected to the cooperation that we demonstrate with the key stakeholders. And this ranges from, the facilitators that we engage, the students or the learners that are benefiting from our intervention, the parents of this learning as well within these camps, even, the school or educational administrators that are concerned or, managing the spaces where we operate. bringing their diverse perspective and insights into the design, deployment, and assessment of our intervention really helps us to maintain the effectiveness of fast track and the use of all our materials, combined. I think the second thing as well is, the continuous, use of evidence to, iterate and improve. So many people do not like to hear the word fidelity of implementation or procedural fidelity. It's a concept around, implementation science that ensures that we dot our I's and cross our T's from A to Z to ensure that our program works the way it's supposed to be. Why that seems to be, a little bit dicey, it is also very important to know that there is a documented process of how intervention should be implemented for us to get the desired outcome. And for us to maintain the effectiveness, we ensure that we collect data continually and accurately and leverage on the insights that we synthesize from those data collection to be able to use. So it's like a loop. We learn through the process of implementing and leverage on what we learn from the process to improve on subsequent, implementation. I think that is also, very, very much key. And then the final one that I think is also very critical is a combination of communal and cultural realities. It is important to stress that in all of the locations that we work, refugee camps, refugee hosting settlements, there are different peculiarities. The refugee camps in Nigeria, from our current experience with the Wise Prize, has demonstrated to be so totally different from the camps in DRC, for example. And it's important that in ensuring that the solution does what we intend for it to do, we leverage on how the culture informs the implementation, how the community, inform the implementation. So to close out, the effectiveness is very much connected to contextual, cultural, and communal realities, and continually leveraging that as enabled us to ensure that over time, Fast Track does what it intends to do, which is to improve, linguistic capabilities and arithmetic abilities for the learners that we're planning for and deploying for.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Ramy, also speaking of resources and constraints, the population of people with visual impairments also has their own diverse needs and resource constraints as well. So I'd like to ask you how you and the Bonocle team work to adapt the tool to meet these diverse needs, especially in underserved communities.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've noticed for sure is every different community has completely different needs and problems. And one of the main things that we noticed is it varies significantly based on country. So for example, let's say in Qatar, the country where I was born, we found that the population is small, the country is small, so there's easier access to resources, and what we need to encourage instead is kind of like better access. So we're improving on the type of access that they have, that they are able to get, and especially for example with the core solution with Bonocle, the fact that we're trying to gamify these experiences, the fact that we're trying to make them enjoyable, entertaining, we're trying to make them also very data driven. So for example, based on this student's performance, I'm going to give them specific customized solutions that are geared towards their specific needs, compared to, for example, Canada, another country where we operate, where the system is very, very different. Canada is a huge country. One of the things that is very common is blind students and low vision students are incorporated or kind of like included into the public school system, and they have these support teachers that are going to support these students, and that kind of the combination of both these needs kind of resulted in the solution that we're building through the WISE program, which is kind of like providing a way for the teacher to engage with these students even if they're not sitting together on a one-to-one basis. And especially this was something that kind of we noticed during COVID, where Braille is a tactile method of learning to read and write, and because it's tactile, it requires that one-on-one kind of connection. But obviously during COVID, because of restrictions and stuff like that, everybody was left to stay back home, and they lost that completely. So what Bonocle's providing now is a way for that to kind of still revitalize that relationship, still be able to engage and communicate with these students, even if they're not physically on a meeting on one-to-one basis. And we find that our solution is able to kind of meet the different needs, and because of the customization we've built into the solution, it's also able to kind of anticipate someone's needs based on their previous performance. It's also able to help teachers on multiple different aspects, because we think in order to improve education in any sense, you kind of need to inform or include all the different stakeholders in the process. And so our new solution tries to kind of cover all these stakeholders, including the teachers, the parents, the students, and the support organizations all at once, to kind of provide that collaborative learning experience. Yeah.
Thank you. You've just touched upon it a bit already, but I'd like to ask you, how has the prize program helped you to pivot the way you approach the solution in a way, and how has it helped you to plan further scale up of the solution as well?
Yeah. I like to think about this in like multiple stages. So the first was the recognition that this is an actual problem that we're trying to solve. This is something that is felt globally, not just in our smaller communities, but this is something that is felt across the globe, and that kind of gave us I would say the courage or the confidence to actually believe in the problem that we're trying to solve, and try to kind of look at it from multiple perspectives. The second was, the time restriction. The time restriction of the WISE Prize kind of pushes you to, be more diligent with the validation that you're doing. I think we definitely tried to kind of, look back into all the data that we've already collected, and kind of reevaluate the data collection method that we were already doing. One of the things that came up during conversations with other WISE team members is the just being more aggressive with our data collection. Kind of trying to read between the lines to some extent, actually understand what the user is telling us, even if they're not, directly telling us. We need to be able to extract that information from them, and those, these two things combined, obviously, with the resources that we're able to get just from the support of the WISE Prize. I think those, three components contributed to the pivot, and we're very confident in this new direction that we're going in. It definitely solves, the problems that are faced in multiple communities. We're trying to focus, for example, in Qatar on, the Arabic language. That's something that is not commonly available in other Braille solutions, and it's something that has been kind of like, suffering or struggling with our students back home. So I think, the multiple things, the ability to focus on a set period of time gives you the space, or the ability to kind of think about things in a very kind of in a way that kind of gives you a clearer sense, or a more obvious perspective of the issue that we're trying to solve.
Thank you so much. And Gideon will ask you the same question as well. How has the prize journey helped you so far support the growth and scale up of Fast Track?
Fantastic. I think I can say that majorly two ways that the WISE Prize has really helped us in, trying to take Fast Track from Fast Track to Fast Track Plus, which is from Nigeria to another geographical context. I think the first thing is donor and government mobilization. We have continually maintained over time that we believe that the future of or the sustainability strategy for Fast Track is government adoption. We would not be able to systemically transform how accelerated foundational skills development is being deployed to refugees without getting government involved. And I think our participation in the WISE Prize has enabled us to rethink and establish, modalities to be able to achieve that, not only on a short-term basis, but on long-term basis as well. If we're going to operate in new geographical contexts, there's a need for us to understand how do we convince and mobilize the government to throw their weight behind us. And we are currently functioning in a very interesting financial landscape when it comes to, us being a non-profit organization. There's been, a shrinking of the funding space, and we are also, rethinking how to do, funds mobilization based on some of the things we've learned through the WISE prize. And I think that is really, really critical for the sustainability of the solution, not only in Nigeria or in DRC where we're expanding to, but so many of the other countries where we are thinking of ensuring that our operation can move into over time. I think the very last one that I wrote here is also about strategic partnership and local ecosystem alignment. The way accelerated education provision or alternative education provision is being, thought about or deployed in Nigeria is different from that of DRC. We cannot do this alone. There's the power in synergy, in collaboration. And I think our experiences, over time with fellow finalists, within the WISE Prize, for this call has also made us understand how do we identify high impact partnerships that can enable us to not only initiate and sustain the impact of our work, but also to replicate, in other locations. So I think the WISE Prize has been really helpful in us understanding, how we can work, synergistically with other partners, not only organizations who bear the same vision as ours, but even those whose work in one way or the other interferes, with what we're trying to achieve with, Fast Track, whether in Nigeria or in DRC or across the African continent when it comes to, providing foundational skills development opportunities for refugees.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you both. It's been a pleasure to be spending these days here with you. We are in Morocco doing a series of in-person workshops, seeing the progress that you've made in the past few months in the MVP development. So it's really a pleasure to see the progress of your work so far. Thank you for being part of the podcast. Thank you for your wise words.
No, thank you. It's been great. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much. We'll do this again. Yeah.